Right, guys, so I would like to show you how to navigate for Proctor Labs, how to get access to your devices, and how you can control the configuration and the devices themselves. So from proctorlabs.com, we want to go under the client login, specify the credentials, and then assuming that your session is active, you should be able to see the Go to Current VRX Session button on the left pane over here. So this means that your session is active and that you will be able to access the devices. You can obviously also take a look at your sessions, the sessions that you have scheduled. You can take a look at your profile, update some information, and also down the bottom here, under VPN instructions, this is where you can quickly see how to deal with virtual private network tunnel that you may probably want to build, at least as long as you want to access the virtual machines on our network. So all virtual machines, ACS, ICE, test PC number 1, test PC number 2, those devices you will only be able to access after you VPN to Proctor Labs. So I'm going to show you how to do this. And I have the ability to take a look at those VPN instructions. So in our case, we are in security. We will be using this information for other tracks. We've got the addresses of the VPN devices. You want to use the primary gateway. This is the name of the group, and this is the pre-shared key for authentication. So it's going to be a remote access connection, what you'll have to establish. And now, depending on the operating system that you have, you will be able to use either a Cisco VPN client to build that connection, or maybe in case of Mac OS, you will be able to use the native supplicant on that device. So I'm gonna say continue, and I see 4 different tabs over here: Load Lab, Controls, Connect, and Power Management. Maybe one more thing that I'm gonna show you before we take a look at those tabs. Let's go back under Home, and let's see if there's actually a document for the different operating systems, and which explains us how to build the tunnel. So let's go to Members area. Again, go to Session. The instructions. Okay, so it says that you're supposed to download the Cisco or Cisco compatible client for Windows, or in case of Mac, so OS X, it's going to be the native client, same as for Linux. There should be also okay, we don't actually need the PCF file. We used to have a single file that you were able to download, which was basically a profile for the connection. But since we are now telling you exactly the addresses, we are giving you the name of the group and the key, you don't actually need a profile. You can just go ahead and open the client and connect using this information. So let's continue the session. Let's take a look at those 4 different options. We have Load Lab, which is where you will be pre-configuring the devices with initial configs. Then we have, so for example, if we take a look at the 5-day instructor-led bootcamp, I have the ability to load the initial and final configuration files. The final config files, this is going to be useful when you want to compare your the solution from the workbook with what you have on your devices. So normally you will be loading the initial configuration files. Then under controls, we have the ability to to control those all those different devices that are connected to our network, to your particular pod. From the routers, switches, ASAs, down to virtual machines. So whenever you want to load a configuration files, you want to make sure that you will be loading those files to the to the devices without any configuration. So this is when you can revert the config, which is erasing the existing configuration. You can use those buttons to perform this procedure. Well, obviously, when you book a session, purchase a session, the devices are supposed to be already cleared for you. So you can skip this step. You can go directly to load lab and load initial configuration files from over here. And then under connect, we have, it gives me some information about how can I access individual devices. It's going to be really important for virtual machines because we have different different user credentials for those different devices, sometimes even different user accounts for command line versus GUI, like for ACS and ICE. So it tells you what is the URL to get to the device. So in case of ACS and ICE, it's going to be an HTTPS session. Then for PC1, PC2, Windows Active Directory, this is going to be RDP tool, what you'll have to use to access those, remote desktop procedure. And then for all other devices which are connected to terminal servers like ASAs, switches, routers, WLC, iron port, this is going to be a telnet session to that URL over a particular port. It is also possible to connect directly to the terminal server and access devices from there. I'm going to show you that in just a couple of minutes. Now let's take a look at power management. So in my case, all devices are powered on. If you have a problem with the device, doesn't come up, always make sure that it's powered on in this section here. Now let's go back to home and then take a look at the security VRAC over here. So this is where we can quickly access our physical topology. Either the diagrams or the connection table. So this is the physical topology that we are using in every single rack. You definitely want to download it, probably print it out, so you know how devices are interconnected. And information about the actual hardware that we have in our racks. Okay, so this was just an overview of Proctor Labs. But one more thing I want to show you, as I mentioned, is how to access those individual devices. One way was to use the Connect tab and take a look at the URLs and the port numbers. The other one is going to be to directly connect to the terminal server. And to quickly take a look at your terminal server number, it's going to basically correspond to your pod number. So if I go to connect, in my case it says that pod is 124. So if I want to connect to terminal server, I would go ahead and say pod 124 ts1.proctorlabs.com or pod 124 ts2.proctorlabs.com. So it's going to look like that. I already have a session on my Windows, on my terminal application. I'm using secure CRT. So I'm going to open, let's say, a connection to, let's take a look at those two TSs. So everyone has two TSs, two terminal servers. TS1 is connected to the switches and all of the most of the routers, versus the second TS goes to the ASAs, IPS, router 1011, WLC, iron port, and an access point. So another way to access those individual devices that are connected to the TS is to simply specify their name from the terminal server. But a better solution is to quickly look at this list of port numbers and prepare the sessions using this information. So you prepare, just go ahead and create a bunch of connect tabs over here where the actual telnet is going to be issued to the TS, but the port number is going to be one of these numbers over here. So for example, if I wanna build a connection entry for router 1, this guy corresponds to port 2001 on TS1. So I can build a session using this information. This is actually what I did. I said that I will be issuing a telnet connection to pod 124 ts1.proctorlabs.com, but over port 2001. Because if I were to say 23, it would be a telnet to the actual TS. But I want to build a session for router 1, so I'm changing 23 to match value from this show host output. So for router 1, it's gonna be 2001. For router 4, it will be 2004. For cat 1, it will be 2010, and so on and so forth.